Why, hello there. It's Anastasia Fomenko here. Thank you for joining me on the No Longer Afraid podcast. I am so excited about the episodes that are to come. These episodes are based on my book called No Longer Afraid, coming out this year. If you've ever been crippled or limited by fear, these conversations are for you because, as someone that has walked through a journey in fear and detangling from fear and learning to live in freedom in the life that I was called to live, I am so excited to have honest conversations about what it's like to overcome and experience freedom in our life. The first conversation is very important to me. It is with the most special person in my life, the one and only Vic Fomenko, who is my husband, the father to my children, and my very best friend. I hope you enjoy it.
To ask you a little bit about your book. I know this has been a journey for you. How long now since you started your book? How long was the writing process?
Okay, believe it or not, I wrote it in 9 months.
You wrote it in 9 months.
I got pregnant and I gave birth.
Wow, 9 months. Come on. You got pregnant with
Well,
the
maybe
idea
nine
of
and
the
a
book.
half because that's how long my second pregnancy was.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
And
Yeah, it's been a wild journey. You know that I fought this one hard. I didn't want to do it. I felt like, again, I feel like my entire life is facing something I'm afraid of and doing it anyway. So just when you think you've graduated fear, there's always another layer. And I'm excited because I feel like this will be kind of an end. I heard someone say this about specifically on books coming out. It feels like you live a season and then you release it to the world and you get to graduate to the next season.
it's powerful.
And so I think it is powerful because this has become a message of my life, really. Because in 2017, I wrote a song called "No Longer Afraid," which really just encompassed my journey of coming out of fear and shame, to discover my true self, to discover who I really was beneath all of that. You know what's fascinating is I'm watching people go through those journeys now in their 30s.
Yeah.
You
The
know what I
journeys
mean?
of
It's like
discovering themselves.
people are like discovering themselves in their 30s. And by God's grace, you guys, I don't know how I jumped into that journey. Actually, it was after I had my firstborn, London, when I really dove in, like something's got to change, something's got to shift. And so it's wild. I never imagined going back to that statement, no longer afraid, but the
Yeah.
Lord kind of resurrected it, and he challenged me to go there again and write the story and write the book. And
It's powerful.
yeah,
Let me just go on that real quick. Like the song "No Longer Afraid," which was released January
how
2018.
deep is your love?
Yeah, that's powerful. I love it. But that song was actually the Lord gave it to you because you went into the recording studio to record a song. You did Wild. You had a passion project. It was to record a song.
Yeah.
And you had written this like kind of Christianese type of a song that you were getting ready to record. And then you went right before you went into the studio.
Lord knows that song
Yeah.
went into the grave
Yeah.
because
So talk about real quick that moment where you were about to record a song that you had written, and then No Longer Afraid was
Right.
birthed out of you
Right.
opening yourself up.
well, I think the Holy Spirit, my best friend, is so kind, is so good. He just exposed it right there before the studio time and showed me this isn't what you're really feeling. This isn't really your heart. You just threw together some Christianese words and you really just want this to be a song that sounds good and that someone else might enjoy, but this isn't your heart. And I remember being so provoked and actually angry. And I went to my friend Allie's house. This was actually here in Vancouver, Washington. Drove
We
to
weren't
her
living here
house.
yet.
Yeah, we weren't living
Yeah.
here yet. And I knew she had a piano and no one was home. And I sat at the piano and I just remember like sobbing, like, God, what in the world am I doing? Like, I don't even know who I am. I'm trying to like release a song here. And it was just like a film strip of my life. Just, whoa, this is wild. But like, No Longer Afraid is literally my entire journey from, being a toddler and having a dog attack me, and it's just like
which
going
you write about in your
into
book.
that. Yeah, you have to read that story
The details,
in the book. It's so
I think it's
fun.
in chapter 1. The details of how you tell that story is one of the most phenomenally written chapters.
I couldn't even read that to you the first time I was reading that chapter to Vic. I'm like, it was so filled with gratitude, because I don't even recognize that person. And so, long story short, No Longer Afraid came out of that 30-minute session at the piano, weeping my face off.
You didn't have that song at all.
No, nothing.
And you were about to go in
the
your studio, and you were going to record a song that wasn't your heart broken open.
No.
Because one of the things about your life is that you don't just sing songs
Here's the
or
thing,
preach
too.
messages.
The world knows the difference. Like, not just the church, but the world knows the difference. If you're being real with something, or if you're just like being religious about it. And so I have watched that song minister to so many people, you guys. I mean, I remember when we first moved here, I went to visit an old coworker who was actually on her deathbed. She was literally about to pass. She was almost in hospice, on her way to hospice. And my sister had invited me because she worked with her for so long, and I used to work with her as well. But we walked into the hospital room, and I didn't know what I was going to tell this woman. I knew she was broken. She was so mad at God for a lot of her life. I remember she would make jokes about us, going to church and like, you guys are just so obsessed with this God. And I had no idea what I was going to tell her. And she was awake. And when I walked in, the Lord's like, you need to lean in and sing that song over her.
Whoa.
And I just remember I was wearing this like white linen shirt. And I leaned in, and she goes, an angel's here. And I just began to sing like, how deep is your love? How strong? And I just sang like almost the whole song. And she lay on her bed just sobbing. Like I could just feel the presence of God entered the room, and love was encountering this woman. I can't even talk about it. It's so emotional because love broke through into her fear. It was so powerful. And that moment shifted everything. Like, this woman was a pretty big deal in the courthouse. And I mean, a lot of judges and attorneys would come to visit her, and she made everybody listen to this song. She would play it for all of them. And she said, when I die, I want Anastasia to sing this at my funeral. And so lo and behold, her daughter called me after she had passed and said, my mom didn't stop playing this song and all the rest of your songs until she passed. And she made sure that I made sure that you were going to be there. She was this sweet Irish woman named Helen. I think I write about her too. But I remember at that funeral, like I got to declare that your love, like Jesus, your love is here. When your love comes, it's the biggest dismantling weapon to fear. And so it was so sweet. Like I got to be a part of her testimony and her story of meeting Jesus. And that white linen shirt, she kept telling everybody an angel visited her.
That's true. You are an angel. You're my angel.
Cute.
And, and the lyric there is, your love is here. I'm no longer afraid.
You don't have to be afraid.
Yeah, because of the love of God.
And you know what's crazy, guys? The giants just get bigger and the faith just gets stronger because love invades. And what happens is like we know who's behind us. We know who goes before us and on every side of us. And so we don't have to be afraid. So that is my message. I'm so excited.
Yeah. And I actually wanted to say this, that this journey of you writing this song was so powerful because one of the things that I love about you is that you don't just sing songs, you don't just preach messages, but the anointing on your life is when you break yourself open, when you open your heart.
Divine anointing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. It basically is kind of like, it's that sense that you get. They're like, whoa. Like, there's some people that perform a song, and there's some people that will perform a song or sing a song and they break themselves open and you just feel moved. Everything inside. It's not just like emotions, but it's deeper than that. It touches you and it changes you.
Yeah.
And I think there is something that comes on you, not when you preach a message or sing a song, but when you break open your heart.
Yeah.
And I think you've really discovered that throughout your life, that your job as as someone that sings, that leads, that speaks to people, is to break yourself open. So I've watched you do that. And actually this song, No Longer Afraid, was that, because you came in with a good Christian little cute song that I kind of was like a little bit ruthless on a little bit. I remember we'll talk a little bit. Yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that more. But you came into the studio to do just this kind of Christian-y song, and the Lord's like, that's not what I'm on. And you go, and in 30 minutes, this song comes out, and it's actually, out of all the songs you've written, it's the most popular. It's a hit song. You can actually check it out on YouTube. Just type in No Longer Afraid, Anastasia Fomenko, and it'll come up. Really powerful. Been sung in churches and worship teams all over. But I find it fascinating that when you tapped into your truest self in 2017, what came out of your heart started to really affect people. And what's crazy is, I don't know, maybe a year or so ago, you went on a writing retreat just to write a book. You felt like there was a book that's going to be in you, and you didn't know what it was. And it was at that retreat, I think, right?
Yes.
That God's like, your book is no longer afraid.
Yes, it was a retreat with Jefferson Bethke, and I remember I got there and everyone was like on a mission. They knew exactly what they were doing. And here's the thing, y'all, like I've always felt average in all things. So like, even though you're talking about my voice, I'm like, yeah, I think I just knew that I didn't really have this enormous gift to like destroy things with, like to like capture a room. But I've just discovered that I've always had the Holy Spirit, and he's just the greatest friend. It makes me so emotional because I have watched him do like something so much bigger than I could have ever imagined or done with my life. Like he would just take anything in my life and make it so grand and so big, and it would always like bring him glory. It wasn't about me. And so I remember at that writing retreat, you guys, I felt so small. I felt like, what am I doing here? I mean, there's these smart like business people writing these like really crazy books that I don't even understand the titles of, and here I am just like, well, I think I'm just going to write my story, and I don't know if it's going to do anything, but I'm just here because I'm obeying him. And so I think every single time I have partnered my life with the Holy Spirit, something powerful and profound has happened.
That's right. And
I've just chosen to kind of die to the fear and just do things afraid and watch what he would do. And so shortly after that 9-month journey of just sitting down, disciplining myself and just writing something. I know it's not, to me, it's not about, it being eloquent or profound, but it's raw and it's my story. And the greatest thing about this book is that I would like to be able to hand it to anyone. Yeah. It doesn't have to be someone in the church. I think I wrote it it was funny. We were actually talking about this the other day with a friend, that I didn't realize I was writing the book for the broken version of myself. And so this person that I was envisioning, it doesn't have to be a person in the church. And my goal is to really watch fear be dismantled in anybody's life. I mean, there's a world out there that's crying out and living in fear, and just as, just even more so, right, than in the church. And so, and
everyone can relate to being
absolutely
afraid. Everyone can relate to being
right.
Shame.
Anybody can relate. And so I think for me, this was just like a step of obedience, and it was very naked. It was very
exposed, naked, vulnerable.
Yeah. And I think the greatest gift that I can give my children is the story that they don't have to live in fear. Yeah. Like they don't have to fight the giants that I fought. They're going to have their own giants in their generation, but they don't have to fight the giants that I fought, because I've conquered them and I've showed them they don't have to live in fear. They don't have to live in shame. And that is the most beautiful thing.
Yes. And I think what's powerful is that people can relate to you, Anastasia, because maybe our listener doesn't feel like they're gifted like you. To sing or to write books or to preach sermons or to lead women or whatever. Oh, well, I'm not gifted like Anastasia. And the truth is, you don't bring a gift. Yeah. You actually bring yourself, your vulnerability, and you break open the Lord and people's hearts through your vulnerability. I love that you don't lean on a gift, but you lean on being vulnerable. And that's what's so cool, is that anyone can do that. Everyone has a story. Everyone has their heart and the Lord that they carry. And as they open themselves up, that's what's powerful and effective. And that's why I love even this book, that it's not a gift that you bring. It's not a revelation or a teaching, first and foremost, but it's really how deeply you just open yourself up, that I think it will actually transform people, and it'll break off fear and shame off of people. So I just want to tell anyone that's listening, you don't have to be the most gifted person. You just have to be real. Craig Rochelle, he's a leadership kind of a guru, and he says this is a powerful statement. He says, people would rather follow someone that's always real rather than someone that's always right.
Oh, that's so powerful.
Always real. And I think that's what I love about you. And I think that's the power of You're No Longer Afraid song, You're No Longer Afraid book, and really just you as a leader, as an influencer, as just a minister. I think you're always real. You don't care about being always right. You care about always being real. And I think that's the greatest gift on your life. And I think for people, being real is the key. That's when the Lord will meet you where you're at. I love that there was a journal that was inspired by God to be written into the Bible. It was a man's journal, and he wasn't always right, but God called him a man after his own heart because he was always real. He made major mistakes. He murdered a man to have his wife, King David, and he writes many Psalms, and in there, he's always real. And Lord's like, that man is after my heart, and I want his journals to be in the Bible.
Wow. Well, to continue this real conversation, I think you're right. I think I remember when we felt this nudge, this invitation to go into foster care. The last thing we felt was gifted in that area. Do you remember? That was like looking at a scary giant and saying, yes, we'll conquer this thing.
And why did we say yes? Was it our idea?
Absolutely not.
It was an invitation from the Lord.
I think, yeah, we tend to fight the big things in our life, and then we're like, God, we just know, you already know that if we say yes, I mean, I watched my life break open because of this decision to say yes to something I was so scared of, felt so inadequate, felt completely, I don't know. I just remember even going through the classes of getting into foster care and feeling like, what in the world are we doing? Like, why are we doing this? God, this makes no sense. We just moved to a new state, trying to establish, our lives here.
The timing
our ministry, the timing was ridiculous.
We're trying to figure out money and work and ministry. We're planting a church. I had just launched our school of ministry, a Bible school. So we're in the middle of probably one of the busiest, occupied seasons of our life. Remodeling a home, all these things. And Lord's like, open up your home to foster kids. And we've been dreaming about our own kids.
Yeah.
And so we had one daughter who was around 8 at that time, maybe 7 or 8. And then we were dreaming about having more kids. Felt the Lord spoke to us about having more. And the Lord's like, foster.
Well, we say yes to fostering and we get pregnant.
We start going through the training. We start getting closer. God. And bam, we get pregnant.
Yes.
With our second baby girl.
What I'm trying to say with that story is that when God asked us to open up our home, he was essentially asking us to open up our hearts.
So good.
And I feel like nothing has expanded my heart more than that journey of saying yes to something we were pretty deathly afraid of.
Yeah.
I mean, it was such a wild journey. I don't know about you. I think you were a little more put together in it, but I was like, how am I going to take someone else's child in and love them and then say goodbye to them? All these things that come up around this idea of fostering, but nothing broke us open more. I feel like together as a couple, like we were so raw in that season because we felt so, I don't know what the right word is. It's like we had no idea what we were doing, and we felt completely dependent on God's grace in that season. Just so weak, but watching God's grace and God's strength come in and meet us there. It's fascinating. I feel like so much of what we were trying to accomplish and for you, teach, preach, that whole journey of fostering preached louder than any message did.
That's true. Because again, the thing is, it's not about the message or the revelation. It's about how wide you open your heart up.
Let's go.
It's been said that, your home is where your heart is. So an open home is an open heart.
Wow.
And I think what the Lord was trying to do was, I think he was trying to help us break open our heart, because that was going to speak louder than any message or revelation or teaching or gift that you can bring. Because you can always find someone more gifted than yourself. You can always YouTube or go online or podcast someone way more gifted than you. But what people cannot compete with, in one sense, is that when you break yourself open and the Lord comes, and that's when lives are transformed, because lives aren't transformed by more information, but by really an experience. And when you open your heart up, you can lead someone into an experience.
There is a woman in the Bible who makes her way into a home she probably wasn't welcome in.
She wasn't invited to this dinner.
But Jesus was there.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm
going
to do it. I'm going to get in there.
And an uninvited guest that was not welcome, because it was like a religious Pharisee's home. And
I can't even imagine how wrong culturally that was.
Yes.
For her to make her way through the room to be at the feet of Jesus, to break open this alabaster jar that cost her everything. And so I can't help but wonder if it's the cost, the price that we pay, the cost of what we bring that ministers or serves people way more than what we can do with our gift.
Yeah, that's powerful. And even that story is so powerful, because the perfume that she poured on Jesus's feet cost a full year's wage. Imagine maybe modern day $50,000 to $70,000, maybe an average salary. I don't know. Someone takes something that costed them a whole entire year's of work, and is in one moment pours it on his feet. And then people were like, what a waste. Even one of Jesus' disciples, we could have helped the poor. You know how many foster kids we could have helped? You know how many people we could have fed? You know, people saved from human trafficking? And Jesus rebuked that disciple and said, no, I am worthy of this. And what she did will be spoken of and remembered wherever the gospel is preached in the world. So her story of breaking open the most valuable thing, because her treasure was no longer this year's worth of treasure. It was the Lord. And so she broke that open. So powerful. And I love that your book, No Longer Afraid, really is you taking the most sacred thing to you. And it's not just a year journey. It's really 30 plus year journey, and just you break it open.
Yeah. Like
a perfume. And it's really an offering to the Lord. In there is your childhood. It's your journey. It's our marriage. It's, we just expose it all. Yeah. And it's so vulnerable.
We love doing that, don't we?
And I've watched you write this book in this process. And I think even recently, as you're getting ready, it's in the editing phases and getting ready to be released. But I've watched almost the enemy visit you with fears and anxieties, because it's am I too vulnerable? Am I too raw? Is this okay? And you've just felt kind of naked and uncovered almost.
Yeah.
Because your greatest gift to the world is your openness, but it's also the greatest fear. Yeah. So just talk a little bit about how have you felt in this process of releasing your journey?
Well, I think when you hear someone else talk about it, it doesn't feel so costly. But when it's our own journey, all of a sudden it feels whoa, it's just getting thrown out there. And what's funny is that I remember when I released the song No Longer Afraid, it felt similar, but it was just a song. Now I think back, really, Stasia, that was just a song, not that big of a deal. I think it's this journey of graduating another season of breaking myself open to actually discover what's on the other side.
Yeah, another layer.
I feel like I need to do this because I need to meet the Lord on the other side and hear him and hear him in a new way and hear him invite me into something new.
Yeah.
So in order for me to get there, I have to like pass this test.
That's right.
And go ahead and release it to the world. And the crazy thing is I know how many people struggle with this stuff. It's like, why not just, relish in the testimonies of what it could do for people?
Yeah.
But the enemy is so stupid and thinks he's creative by coming at us and kind of trying to tell us, ooh, like this is gonna really be out there now, or this is how people are gonna think about you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that aroma. It's like when that woman, when she broke open the alabaster jar, like that aroma filled the room, but it affected people differently.
That's right.
And I think I just care so deeply about how it affects his heart and what it does to him. So at the end of the day, I'm doing this for him.
That's right.
And I know certain people, not everyone's going to love the aroma of it.
And there was critics in that
and that's
same
okay.
room.
Yeah.
It changed the atmosphere. It filled the whole room with a new scent.
Yeah.
But there was also critics, but Jesus rebuked the critics.
Let's go. Because you know what happens? When you're at the feet of Jesus, you will always be defended.
Yes.
Like when you're at
He'll
your
cover you.
weakest, like, oh, Jesus, I'm just going to it's like Mary when Jesus comes to her home and Martha's like trying to expose Mary, who's at the feet of Jesus. Jesus is like, I'm going to speak for her.
That's right.
Like, this girl knows what's up. Like,
Yeah.
she's exactly where she needs to be. I love that whenever we take that posture of humility and actually make it our goal to please him. Like, we go really low to do that. We're always going to be defended there.
Yeah, he'll cover you. I
Always.
think our greatest gift that we can bring to the world is being always real, being vulnerable, and bringing ourselves.
That's right.
And it's so scary to do, but the Lord, and we see it all throughout his life, is that he always covered the vulnerable.
Yes.
He came to the broken, to the vulnerable, and he's like, I'm going to cover you.
Wow.
Instead of those that were the religious ones that covered themselves and put a facade on and a face on, he was the most intense with them.
Right.
But those that were just like vulnerable, he covered. I think of the woman in John 8 that came to him, that was caught in the act of adultery, was dragged to him into the city center square with no clothing on, and how uncovered she felt. And they were about to stone her and kill her. And Jesus dismissed all of them and covered her, came down to her level.
So good. We dare you to become more real than you have ever been in everything that you do, because people want to follow the real you. Thank you, Craig Rochelle.
Yeah.
People want to follow the real
Someone
version
that's
of who
always
you
real.
are. Yeah. And that version that version is always being discovered. I feel like we're only always discovering our true self. So whatever you're doing, whether it's in your job, in your business, in your ministry, in your social media, be the real version of who you are. Be the real version that's underneath maybe that facade, or maybe there's a fear of being yourself because you won't be accepted by the world, or a lot of it is, right, the fear of man.
Yes.
And I think the most beautiful thing is that God does cover us in when we find out what it's like to live in the affirmation of the one who created us. We don't really care about what other people say. So
yeah, I think the encouragement is, don't just bring your gift, but bring your heart, bring yourself. People connect with your heart.
That's true.
Not just with a message, not just with a revelation, not just with a gift, because that's so prevalent in the world. But what about bringing your heart?
Isn't it true that you can meet someone and have a heart-to-heart conversation for them for an hour, but because they broke their heart open, you broke their heart open, you feel like you've known them forever?
That's right.
But then there are other people you've known for like 10 years and you've never actually seen them break their heart open.
Yeah. And there's no intimacy.
There's no intimacy.
Because human connection is not based off exchange of information for a long time. It's based on the depth of you opening yourself up.
Yes. So we dare you to open yourself up. Come on. Yeah. There's so much life and so much breakthrough on the other side of that.
And if you need some inspiration to break yourself open, the book No Longer Afraid, Anastasia models what breaking yourself open looks like. And I'm so excited. Every chapter is a different fear that you address, intertwined with your life story.
Let's go.
So I'm so excited for you guys to check out how someone breaks themselves open, and let it be an inspiration for you as well.
Let's go. Thanks for joining us today, guys. We will see you next time.